Alright guys, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between Khorne and the Beastmen. It's going to be myself with the Herald of Khorne facing off against Hadres, who's going to be coming in rocking MORGHUR, the Shadow Gave, and the big beastie boy. So we do have double of the Gorgons, and it looks like a MORGHUR as well as a Desperation. So very, very SE focused. Now, as far as my build goes, the entire front line is going to be Chaos Warriors with Halberds. I think they are the ideal frontline choice against Beastmen. The best units on the Beastmen roster, in my opinion, well, there's three. I think that Ungor Raiders are really good, but some of the more cost-effective pieces are their Minotaurs as well as Razorgore Herds, right? And these guys counter both those. I mean, yes, Razorgores and Minotaurs will do good damage against them, but at least they have the anti-large to punch back. Whereas if you go with like shielded warriors or dual-wielding warriors, okay, they might kill like the Gores and Ungors a little bit quicker, but you don't really, that's not the issue against Beastmen. Against Beastmen, it's going to be the Razorgores, the Minotaurs, and the big scaries, right? So Chaos Warriors into the sunset. We got a Herald of Khorne, and I like him a lot in this matchup. I think he's actually very, very strong for a couple of reasons. Number one, if your opponent brings MORGHUR, he can beat the brakes off MORGHUR. MORGHUR is a regenerating infantry piece. This guy does fire damage and has anti-infantry, so he just absolutely annihilates MORGHUR when you put them on the Juggernaut here. On top of that, he's got a couple nice buffs. He does have the Revel and Slaughter, which is nice for leadership and melee attack, and I believe I brought the Locust of Wrath as well, which just gives flat 40 melee attack for a short period of time. On the flank, some Marauders and some more Halberds in the back, and double Cultists of Khorne, which are just amazing. They do great damage against light armor, which is most of the Beastmen roster. For the army of Hadres here, it's going to be MORGHUR, the Shadow Gave, and the double Gorgon coming into party. He does have a Brave Shaman of Traderkin, which is insanely good. Traderkin basically, well, what every Beastmen player and their dog does is they send in like some, juicy targets to make you blob up, and then they punish you with Traderkin. And don't worry, that's going to be happening to me here in just a second. A couple Ungors, Raiders in the back, but again, the army's going to be very focused on Gorgons, and Gorgons have like a nice attack, not in the actual stat sense. I mean, their stats are decent for sure, but I find that their attack animations are very good against infantry too, and they have that sweet anti-large bonus if they have to fight anything big. I think Gorgons are some of the better like big monsters in the game for sure. So those bad boys are going to be moving in, looking to take a fight, and it is going to be a fight. So over on objective number 3, I do plop down some Marauders and Halberds, and MORGHUR, the Shadow Gave, going to be moving in, and the Herald of Khorne going to be going to do battle here, and it looks like there's going to be some sort of witchcraft going down. Yes, it is going to be MORGHUR dropping the Chaos Spawn summon, so trying to troll me a little bit, but I don't want my cultists to chase too deeply and too greedily here against the forces of Hadres, as the Marauder Horsemen of Khorne just do a little bit of poking against these bad boys. Look how quickly these Chaos Spawn are being dispatched. It's pretty insane. They're really getting worked. Halberds move in, but Gorgons don't care about Halberds. they just run right through them and go right for the kill. And this is where I'm going to get punished in the blob. So I try and scatter at the last second, but I do get caught. And the classic AoE there. So Marauder Horsemen going to get back these other Marauder Horsemen. And there's pros and cons to this for Hadres, right? He did lure me in, but his big monsters are a little bit trapped up in Halberds. And MORGHUR, the Shadow Gave, of course, is nearby watching with his watchful, moving eyes, but he is certainly next up on the list. And both Gorgons do take a bit of damage, but I think overall he came out ahead there. The amount of damage it did to my Herald was quite a bit. The Halberds are now standing at the ready, Minotaurs coming in, and those Khorne warriors are about to have to work for their pay, that's for sure. I suppose they get paid in skulls and whatnot, but those bad boys are going to be sitting and grinding and taking a lot of damage, but still hanging in there. The rest of the Khornate army now can kind of freely engage. Side objective, I do send some Marauders of Khorne to fight against the Ungors, should be able to win that fight, and objective number 3 is pretty firmly in our control, and so too is objective 2. As far as the value trading goes, you have to remember the Beastmen have a ton of healing, so any like close value like this, as the game does progress, just kind of take note. That is going to be a big variable. They have Butchers, they have double Gorgons, and MORGHUR, so they have 4 very expensive centerpieces, which all regenerate, so that's got to be a big factor going into this. So throwing weapons doing good work. Gorgon's getting a little bit beat up here. Here, the Herald of Khorne is going to be turning about face to fight the Gorgon. Gorgons do not have normal regeneration, so they're not weak to fire. It's like a different ability, but we do get a good swarm right here. Basically, the Gorgon going to be getting attacked by my 2 cultists, and Minotaurs of Khorne with great weapons do come in from reserve, and they're going to do some fat damage. Granted, the Gorgons trade very well into the Minotaurs also, but their anti-large attacks will certainly do well, and hopefully we can drag down some of the big beasties. Halberd's holding well in the middle, and it looks like there's going to be a swath of Razorgore herds coming in, but like I said, that's why you don't go for shielded or dual weapons, because this is what you're going to be running into in Beastmen. And sure, if they come in with like some like Gore herds or Bestigores and you have like Halberds, okay, it might not be as cost effective, but you're not straight up going to lose the game like you would. And here we get a really, really strong early pick, guys. This Gorgon goes down super fast to the Herald of Khorne, the double cultists, and the Minotaurs of Khorne, so we get a big value lead. But if this thing's able to heal, and if MORGHUR, the Shadow Gave, is able to heal a little bit, it could be a little bit scary. Now here on this side, Centaur is pulling around. We're going to be retreating with our 2 units here, the Horsemen, and calling in Fleshhounds of Khorne. Fleshhounds of Khorne will do pretty well against Centaurs if they're not eating the charge, but Hadres does get the charge at the last second, which is quite nice. and another fat Traderkin is going to be getting dropped in my forces. So very, very cost-effective magic here from the Beastmen so far. But here the pigs are getting broken back, and the cultists and halberd boys holding on while the Locust of Wrath is active. Their stats are going to be very sauced. 89 melee attack on these bad boys, and the Minotaur is going to be rocking 95. Bloodletter Summon coming in for the cultist, but unfortunately that cultist does get smashed a little bit. Side objective not owned by anybody. It looks like neither myself or the Beastmen have been able to get that. So Marauders of Khorne with dual weapons going to be heading there while we continue fighting here in the middle of the map. And the Herald of Khorne is now going to be going for the kill against MORGHUR. And I do have that big value lead, but the Gorgon has returned. He's going to be healing, and the Butchers of Kalkengard, I believe, are still functional. In the backfield, we were able to deal with the Centaurs using the Fleshhounds and Marauder Horsemen kind of teaming up here. And we continue fighting very hard in the middle objective. But that healing on the Gorgon and the Butchers is keeping him in the fight. Traderkin caster probably rocking, yeah, like almost 3,000 value from those Traderkins, which is just insane. And the Herald of Khorne going for the kill against MORGHUR. Trying to take him out, cutting the head off the beast. If we can get him down, the relatively low leadership army of the Beastmen is going to start potentially running into some problems. So side objective, we just have some Marauders holding that down. A lot of Centaurs pressing into my backfield, trying to hunt down my throwing axes here. And Khorne throwing axes are pretty formidable fighters. They do have high melee attack, especially with the Horn of Khorne active. But overall, you still don't want to be fighting Centaurs in combat. It's not going to be the best for you. So Fleshhounds nibbling in, chewing on these Ungor Raiders. Halberds holding it down. We have a full health unit of Halberds, but honestly, our halberd numbers are starting to diminish a little bit, which is a little bit scary because they've been one of the main reasons why the value trading's been so good for me. But when I run out of halberds and a very elite army, you know, I could start to run into some scary situations here. So the dual weapon warriors winning the fight against the defending Ungors, starting to get the capture weight. Looks like some Centaurs going to be moving in. So these poor Marauders of Khorne going to get wrecked pretty bad, most likely by Centaurs. Although if the Centaurs stay in sustained combat against them and don't cycle charge, the Khorne warriors with their 44 melee attack might be able to return the favor. Their weapon strength at 32 is also quite respectable. On the middle objective, the other Gorgon most likely going to fall, and the Beasts of the Beasts do fall. Down goes the Gorgon as the Herald of Khorne claiming another giant skull for the Skull Throne, so he's probably pretty... Look out how smug he is here. 1,500 value, so he's paid for himself. That's about what he costs here. So middle objective does get rolled up here, and the Horsemen moving in, and now we do have that sweet double cap. So on this side, the Beastmen, their Centaurs able to clean up the Marauders of Khorne with a bit of a sandwich. So nice play there from old Hadries, and we're going to be pushing across with the Hounds and Heralds, and also calling in some new infantry in the back, which is going to be Chaos Warrior Halberds to try and hold it down. On this side, Centaurs getting some nice picks and a little bit of good dual pressure. I'm quite massively ahead on value. But regardless, if you take into account the healing that did happen over the course of the game, probably the value lead right now is like, it's pretty substantial, 5. But I would say it's probably around like 3, maybe like, like 3, 2.5. Probably like 3 is a safer number. There was a lot of healing on those Gorgons and Butchers, and MORGHUR even got a fair amount as well. Wargor's back in business. Centaur's cleaning up my Marauder Horsemen, and on the middle objective, the Chaos Warriors with Halberds moving in. And here we are using our Hounds and dual weapon warriors to get this objective, and it's looking like we're going to be getting a triple cap right now as the Razorgore herds make their way in. And those Razorgores can do a number on my units, though, for sure. They could be a problem, but the Herald anchoring the formation with the Locust of Wrath, making those Fleshhounds very cost-effective in combat. Even him just fighting near them is going to be buffing their stats. Where you can see they get that nice stat when they're fighting near him, although it doesn't seem like his regular one is proccing. There it is. Yeah, I guess you have to be really, really close for him for that bad boy to proc. The middle's looking a little bit hog wild. Butchers of Kalkengard did come back, approaching their healing cap. Halberds holding back several units of Centaurs, as we do send on another Halberd unit to try and anchor that point down. And on this side, I kind of get rolled up, and I was like, wait a second. I felt as if I had just already won this game, and it was over. I was like, there's no way Hadries is going to be able to come back, right? There's no way. But the Razorgores and the Blackhorns Ravagers get the job done, showing the cost-effectiveness of the Beastmen armor piercing, as my Halberd boys are going to be continuing to push. And on the side objective, we do have it, but the Beastmen also getting good momentum over here. The Razorgore herds do get broken, but the other ones are there, and it's doing good damage against my Fleshhounds. More Centaurs on the way in, and also some Ungor Spearman herds. So it is a nasty, just kind of knockdown, drag-out fight here. Certainly could use some Fleshhounds to help out in this situation. In the middle, Cultist is taking some arrows to the face, all 500 HP. Going to the fourth quarter here, baby. Fighting hard as we are up to a fair amount of points lead. Here, Chaos Warriors with Halberds going to be moving over to try and reestablish his point, as I do call in some big, thick Chaos Knights. Chaos Knights are a nice kind of finisher unit, so we bring them in to try and close out the game, and it certainly could. They get in there, they start bashing a lot of the Beastmen units, which lack armor piercing. The Butchers are one of the only things here that's good against them, but the Blackhorns Ravagers and the Centaurs should for sure lose that fight, especially with some Chaos Warrior Halberds nearby. That's going to be pretty good for us. So this objective, looking like my Lord here actually gets a little bit trapped up, and man, Razorgores are such a good unit. Like you would, like I don't know what it is about them, man. They always just perform so well. This Herald of Khorne trying to get away, but the mass of the Razorgores is a problem. And the Centaurs also pulling in, and a couple of them do manage to put a blockade up on the Herald of Khorne. So he just keeps getting trapped there, and I couldn't quite escape. But thankfully, some Fleshhounds do arrive, hoping they'll be able to kind of lift the siege on my Herald of Khorne, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to kind of grind this fight out. We'll have to keep tabs on that. In the middle, Halberds and company holding it down on the side objective. Looks like another fat Traderkin, and man, those Traderkins have been absolutely filled this game. This one's going to probably put him up to about 2,800 value, as it does nail the Chaos Knights, but not before the Chaos Knights were able to dispatch most of the units here, though the Blackhorns Ravagers are still a problem, but those Traderkins have put the game on the back for the Beastmen here. Without those, man, if I didn't, commit to a couple rough blob fights, could be tough. But here, the Blackhorns Ravagers at 43 leadership, the Wargore coming in, he didn't hear no bell, baby. He's getting in there despite being wounded. Still a nice anti-infantry piece. Fleshhounds coming to try and support as well. Chaos Knights currently sitting at about 800 value, so still providing a little bit of bump and grind here as we do get the capture weight. Middle objective held down by some Halberds, and the Marauders of Khorne just chasing down some archers across the battlefield. And that damn Herald hasn't been able to escape. All Herald and the Ungors. The Ungor Spears arrive, giving a nice cheap anti-large poke against the Fleshhounds. And honestly, I'm going to be losing my Herald, and now I was like, wait a second, my whole army's going to be taking a leadership penalty. Yes, Hadri's army has as well, since losing MORGHUR. He's had the Lord Dead penalty, but now I have it as well. And I was like looking around, I'm like, I don't have a whole lot left, man. This is getting a little bit crazy. Those Traderkins, another Traderkin coming in, absolute filth. Just nuking my army. 3,200 value on that, and it is just pure grossness for sure. The Brave Shaman of the Wild is going to gonna be fighting it here, and my forces are looking bare. And I was like, a game I thought I had 100% won has been turned around by the spellcasting over here on objective number 3. Those Chaos Knights, I did not think they would be in any sort of danger, but it turns out they were, as those casters were able to melt them with some foul beast magic. Here on the side, more Fleshhounds coming in. A little bit of a desperation pick, honestly. I'm just trying to break this formation, but the Blackhorn Ravagers are doing quite well. Here are the Chaos Warriors with Halberds holding it down, and objective number 1 is a complete disaster. We've absolutely lost that one. Razorgore herds chasing down these Marauders of Khorne. Chaos Warrior Halberds in a little bit of trouble as the Fleshhounds do maneuver over here. Going to be getting a bit of a sandwiching fight here, hoping to break the back of the Beastmen Leadership Corps, maybe take down the Wargore, get that Wargore in the process, or the Brave Shaman, and we'll have to see how that goes. But Halberds might get sandwiched here. There are Centaurs coming in from one side. Razorgores looks like they're coming over to help win this fight, which is a smart play from Hadri's for sure. If you get here, win this fight, it saves your caster, it saves your Wargore. Normally the Fleshhounds would probably win this at this point, considering how beat up everything is. But now that he's getting the Wargores in here, or the Razorgores, it's going to change the dynamic of this fight. Razorgores, not the tankiest, but they still have some bacon on them bones, and they are able to take that charge, and the Fleshhounds are going to be crumbling down, especially because of the leadership penalty I just took from my lord having recently died. So feels bad for sure. Halberds in the middle holding it down, but they're starting to get worn down a little bit as we do get more pigs on the way in. Sweet pig getting in there. The pig calls certainly showing no mercy as a couple Chaos Knights retreating to the trees to try and lure them closer to my spawn point to get some hounds on them. And here my formation is broken. Yes, I still have the objective. We're approaching a points victory, but I don't know if we're going to be able to hold on, to be honest. I'm just kind of tabled off units. And despite having a bit of a value lead, the healing in tandem with the insane magic, and also some of the value I have is tied into the Wargore and these characters that are still very much functional on the battlefield, has been absolutely devastating. So from here, nice charges coming in. He gets a complete collapse, and just like that, I'm triple capped. I couldn't believe it. Hadri's and I were on Discord with one another during this game, and I do call in some Minotaurs for a little bit of last-minute scrapping, but really, there's nothing I can do. He just has so many units left. And it's funny because in the midpoint of the game, when I was up by like 4,000 or 5,000, well, yeah, we're not taking healing into account, but I was up by several thousand value. Hadri's on the mic was like, oh, this game's over. Like, I just have no chance whatsoever. And then I kind of started to drink the Kool-Aid a little bit. I agreed. And that wasn't the case at all. The game was actually still relatively close. And the big turning point for the game, we can talk about this now. This is just going to be a bit of a grind on the side, was when I threw my Lord away here. I got greedy. I saw the points. I didn't respect the magic he still had as well as the healing that he had earlier in the game. I should have just anchored down on the middle objective and the side objective, not overextended my Lord, let him have this point, and force him to move into my defensive positions. That basically cost me the game. I think that game was 100% won, but the misplay of throwing away my Lord and overextending to 3 objectives, the greed of the Blood God for more skulls cost me the game. So very well played to Hadri's, man. It takes a lot of skill to come back from a absolutely brutal start like that. But his caster was the hard carry. 3,500. Traderkin is one of those spells that if other rosters had access to it, it would get nerfed. But the fact that like the Beastmen, who are kind of a lower mid-tier faction, have it, it just kind of gets like overseen by CA. But Traderkin is just so much better than other spells like Final Transmutation and the equivalents. It's really, really good. So I like the build. Honestly, I don't know if I would change too much. I was very happy with the performance. I just think the execution and the playing of the objectives was a pretty substantial blunder. I also think the Chaos Knights were a mistake. I should have had the Chaos Knights later and called in Minotaurs with great weapons instead. They would have been exponentially more effective at clearing out Razor Gores and different things like that, as well as his character. So yeah, that might have been able to save me too if I had called in a Minotaur instead of the Chaos Knights, but GG, well played, man. What a great comeback on his part. He did so well. And that's going to be it for today. So, great game, fun stuff. I always love Chaos battles, and it's cool to see the Beastmen do well. Fun times. GG. And that's a good lesson in tenacity. And even if you think you're down on a game, give it a scrap for a couple more minutes. See if you can come back, because it's certainly possible. All right, guys, take care of yourselves. We'll see you next time, and that's it for today.